welcome back to another episode of Talk Dead to Me. I am your host, Johnny Odell. I'm the social media manager for The Walking Dead, and this week we have the very lovely Karen David on the show. She stars as Grace in Fear the Walking Dead, and oh boy, this week did she have an amazing episode. I like to say that I don't really cry too much during TV shows. I do that dumb, tough guy thing, but I really did shed some tears. This was such an impactful episode. We're going to talk about it up front. I don't think I've actually talked about this back half of season 6 much. We took a brief hiatus on the show, but honestly, guys, I think this season of Fear is probably its best yet. I think it's better than 3, it's better than 1, certainly better than 5 and 4, mostly because it just has a solid structure. Yes, it was very sad to see Garrett Dillahunt's John Dory die. That is something that I wish we could have done without, but it looks like he's getting a ton of other roles, and if it had to come at the cost of Fear the Walking Dead, then so be it. The cult episode was really good. I thought June getting rid of Ginny was amazing. Sometimes they draw these villain storylines out, or the villains aren't really fully fleshed. Yes, I think we could have gotten a little bit more Ginny, but either way, we killed her so we can make room for these new, the end is the beginning folks, the cult folks, and I'm really enjoying that. I can't wait to see where it goes. Anyway, enough for me up top. I hope you guys are also enjoying this season. I am going to go right to this interview. It is so good. Karen David is so nice. Just a quick programming note. She did have some drilling happening outside of her window, which she is not in control of. So if you hear that, apologies. I'll try to do my best getting rid of it. But if not, these be the times. Anyway, let's get to it right now. This is Karen David. Before we get into it, just what's the reaction been like for you? Because I've seen you've been responding to people on social media.
It's been so wonderful getting to know more of the TWD fandom. And for all the reasons of what happened in this episode, I don't know, I feel like there's even more of a bonding with them. And for those that were tuned in early on AMC Plus, or those who had the advanced screeners, to those who saw the episode, it's been so wonderful to meet more of the Fear fandom and get to know them more and talk about what happened in such a sensitive subject. And we're kind of all giving ourselves a virtual hug on my social media pages. And I'm so overwhelmed with all the love and the glowing reviews. And as an actor, you can only hope and pray that you do a storyline justice, but especially a storyline like this, which is so sensitive, which discusses infancy loss. Many families have been through this, and I've had personal experience in my family and dear friends who have been through this. So the pain is so palpable, and I did a lot of research leading up to filming this episode, and just hearing and watching a lot of videos from many families who are so brave enough to talk about their experience. I had to press pause a lot in between sniffles and tears and crying, and I just wanted to take their experience and infuse that into Grace's story as well. I wanted to find a way to pay a respectful homage to these families, to my family, to my friends who have been through this, and do it in a way where, sensitively and with a lot of TLC.
I think you did it brilliantly. And for some reason in society in 2021, it's still kind of taboo to talk about or to publicly grieve or something. It's weird. People don't really get time off from it. It's so strange that that's sort of you're supposed to kind of just brush it under the rug and not really talk about it. But I'm glad that, how overt this episode is about it, and it's bringing it into the limelight. I think that's really special and powerful.
I'm so proud of our universe for tackling a delicate subject like this. And I hope, because through a lot of my friends and my family, for certain, and then also watching through the videos too of other families, a lot of them felt that they either didn't feel comfortable, which is because no one really talks about it, and a lot of them have had to grieve in silence. So I applaud those families for lack of a better word. I'm so in awe of their strength, and their courage to be able to talk about it, because you never get over the loss of a
Oh,
child. You,
yeah.
you can only you can only hope and pray that each day might be a little easier, that the pain might not be as much. It's trying to find peace with that. Sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's just not. It's, and feeling all of this, just brings me right back to when we were filming this storyline with Grace. And it's such an honor to tell Grace's story. And I'm so thrilled and deeply touched by all the feedback from everyone.
Right. We are going to get back to this week's episode, but I'm going to try to transition us back a little bit. You actually came from sort of a really unique background. You started in India, went to Canada, and then moved to London. So, what was that like experiencing different cultures?
Experiencing different cultures is so good for life experience. I find that the minute that I left home, which was so daunting and scary, but so wonderful at the same time, you learn so much about yourself when you leave home. You grow up very quickly, and you fastly learn that all the comforts that you had at home are no longer there. And then you've got to be this responsible adult, and you've got to, pay the bills or find money for rent, and all of that. And it's I'm very grateful though. Like, my inspiration stems from my parents right from the get-go when they left India, and they weren't allowed to bring um, their assets and their belongings. Not much. They were only allowed $20 to bring with them.
Oh my God.
And my father, he framed that $20 bill, Canadian bill,
Oh,
and it sits in the living room in our family home in Toronto, and as a reminder to my sister, myself when we were growing up, and now my nephews, that with a bit of luck, hard work, and focus, a good attitude on your shoulders. My father said that you can be anything that you want to be, and I'm so grateful to have been taught those lessons from my parents, and humility and all of those things. It really set me up for my journey in my life. My dad's job was taking him back and forth between England and Toronto, and that's how I started spending more time in England, and then finally had to make that decision about going back there when I was a teenager to study drama at drama college. And those are the salad days, as they call them, and I look back on them so fondly, and I'm so grateful to have been able to go to drama college. Thank you, Grandma. God rest her. Um, and just it's been a wonderful journey that's led me to being where I am. And I think as an actor, even as a human, you want to constantly continue to grow. You want to learn. You want to be curious, continue to thrive. I know that's been super challenging for many of us, and for some even more during this pandemic. I think in the beginning when I was talking to Mo Collins about this, my fear sister,
love Mo.
love Mo, is source of the earth human, amazing actor.
So
Um,
funny.
yeah, and yes, oh my gosh, unfairly funny. So when we were talking over a cup of tea one day, we were just saying that I think we were so busy trying to survive, and not knowing what was going to come during this past year and a half, that we forgot to thrive. And
Mm.
thriving, not necessarily in big ways, it could even be small ways. You got to take the small wins during this time. And if it meant that you had a day of peace to yourself where you could just focus on your mental well-being, that was a win. And I think that kind of apply. There's so much that we were saying that we've learned throughout this pandemic that's been a blessing in disguise, and that's to continue to be curious, continue to thrive, and do something for yourself, big or small, little by bit, every day, to feed your heart, to feed your well-being. And we're just so grateful that we've been able to continue to film and do what we love to do and be able to tell these stories. Um, and the only thing is, I do miss my family. I haven't seen my family in a year and a half now. And
Same.
yeah, and it hurts my soul so much, especially when you have elderly parents. You want to spend as much time as possible with them. Uh,
Mhm.
but to love them is to protect them and to think of what's best for them. I remember I had a break in between filming, and I had about 6 weeks. And I know Canada has this 2-week quarantine, so I was just going to come and do it and see my family. And my dad was really funny. He's like, "No, that's okay." I was like, "But Dad, I
Wait
miss
a
you."
minute.
He's like, "Yeah, I miss you too, but it's okay. You don't have to do it." I think because he knew, A, I wasn't vaccinated at the time,
Oh
and
yeah.
and B, he knew that I was so knackered from filming long hours, and he was just like, "It's all right, but all I want to do is just see them." But I'm hoping to do that later this year, so
Oh,
I'm
that's
grateful.
great.
You gotta take the small wins. I'm grateful we have Zoom. I'm grateful we have
Yes. And
FaceTime.
FaceTime, yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I love FaceTiming my parents, and my mom will be like, "No, I don't have any makeup on." I'm like, "Mom, I lived with you for 18 years. It's fine. I don't care. This isn't on CNN right now. It's okay."
Yeah.
So you moved to England, do acting school around 17 or so. You said you were actually bullied as a kid. You had a lot of acne. So was that like being kind of like a fish out of water? Was that sort of like what inspired you to get into performing, or were you always interested in that?
I wanted to start singing and acting and all that when I was 6 years old. I'm so grateful because I feel like, well, now looking back, I feel like, damn, I was a really cool kid then because instead of singing Humpty Dumpty songs and Incy Wincy Spider and all those songs, nursery rhymes, I was singing Hungry Like the Wolf from Duran Duran and Aerosmith songs because my older sister was listening to all this amazing music. Of course, the kids thought I was so strange because I wasn't being a normal sort of 5-year-old, 6-year-old. But my parents and my sister's love for all kinds of music, like my parents would play classical music to opera to Motown, grew up on copious amounts of Motown, Cool and the
As
Gang,
you should.
and it's so good for the soul, and I love it. And they would take me every weekend to go see these concerts at Ontario Place, which were
Mm.
free at the time. And so my parents would take me every weekend, and I got to see the Temptations, Neil Sedaka. I mean,
Oh my
the
God.
legends, the greats. And that really just ignited my love and passion for singing and wanting to act. And of course, coming from a newly immigrated family. Telling them at 6 years old, "Mummy, Daddy, I want to be an actor. I want to go." My mom says I actually said this. I can't remember, but she said, I actually said, I want to go to Hollywood and I want to be an actor and I want to sing and dance. Um, because, of course, they would show me all the Doris Day movies, Fred Astaire,
Mm.
Rogers, and
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to do. Um, and as a kid, you think that this is what I love about kids. And that's why they say it's so important to tap into that inner child in all of us, is to find that wonderment, the possibility. As kids, we fully commit. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. And I'm going to do it. And nothing's going to get in my way. And there's something so innocent and so pure. Now, had I known what it really entailed, um, you don't think about all the rejections and the ups and downs and twists and turns and trying to find money to pay your bill and your rent. But looking back in hindsight, without sounding cliche, um, I wouldn't have had it any other way because it's just taught me how to appreciate and be grateful for the journey. We often, and I'm guilty as ever about that, where we just we're at the starting point. We're so quick to wanting to get to the end point that we forget about what happens in the middle. And that's
Sure.
so important to try and remember, enjoy those moments, even the challenges that come our way. Um, but like I said, I'm digressing now and waffling on.
It's
To
okay.
typical Isabella and Gallivant.
Love that.
But it was such an open, wonderful question you asked. But I think all those experiences of has has helped me so much. And I've had such a supportive family. I mean, they had no connections in this industry or anything, but they meant business as far as, doing well in school, and getting straight A's. I think that was more trying to encourage me to have a good work ethic. So, my dad said, look, you've got to take the initiative. You've got to work hard. And I think growing up, we were in a predominantly white community. And as immigrants, when we come to a new country, our hearts are filled with gratitude because from
Hmm.
the get-go, because you're grateful for a new beginning. You're grateful for what's possible and opportunities. And so my parents always, I was taught that you kind of put your head down and you do the work. You let your actions speak.
Yeah.
more than- And so I was that I was that child in school, and besides singing Aerosmith and Duran Duran songs and Spandau Ballet and all of that, which none of my friends at 5 knew what I was singing. Um, I was that kid that would always sing, and when I was about 11, I started getting really bad acne, and I'm not talking like one zit or two. I was like completely covered. I had really bad acne. I had to go
Oh
on
no.
like Accutane. I did every medication you could think of. And look, as a kid and as a teenager especially, you want to fit in. You
Mm.
want to be accepted and you just want to fit in. Um, but that didn't really quite happen for me, I think, because I was so quietly ambitious with having these big dreams of wanting to write songs and record and act and all that. But I also had a face covered in acne. So a lot of kids just, they didn't understand that. And then, we're now seeing um, it's always been around with the AAPI crimes, hate crimes. But
Mm.
part of my bullying was there was implied biases and, right, but kids, they're so young, it's so difficult, as a kid.
Yeah.
And and it would boil down to simple things like, my friends would bring peanut butter sandwiches to school, and I would think that that was the best thing. Like, wow, that's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Wow. And then I would bring these elaborate curry dishes or Chinese Asian dishes that my mum and father cooked. And, they're very fragrant. So when I warmed it up in the school cafeteria, it would smell. And so a lot of kids would just think, what are you eating? And so it's as a kid that affects you because you just want
Yeah.
to fit in and be accepted. So that was really tough because there were, meaner kids at school. But I think, as I said, looking back, you don't know what they're going through, what's troubling them, that they have to lash out. And I was very grateful to have a very supportive guidance counselor and teachers that helped me get through that. But that was pretty much my whole teenage life. So that kind of gave me this drive to prove to myself that I could be something, that
Hmm.
I could make something of myself, whatever that meant, because I just kept hearing every day sort of verbally abusive words, that,
Sure.
the way I looked, um, or just the way I was, that I nothing would happen for me. And when you hear that enough, sometimes you begin to believe it. So
Sure.
um, but it just made me, through the help of, like I said, of my mentors, my teachers. I had such good guardian angels in my life that just kind of took me out of that and just kept pushing, saying, no, you've got what it takes. Follow your dreams. Everything's going to work out. Um, and I trusted them. I think that's a big thing of knowing when to trust and when to listen. And I'm glad I listened to them because they were right. Eventually the acne did go away. I mean, to this day, I always have to fight for good skin. My acne is nowhere near as bad, but it makes you appreciate, when you have a good day, you're like, oh wow. But I
Like
feel
someone take a photo of me. I look amazing.
it's great, but it's being on a show like Fear. This is what's great about being on Fear with Dad. It's like if you get a zit, fantastic. If you get
Right.
a scratch or something, great. It just adds more to your character. I'm like, darn it. It's like now when I need zits, this is a really good time. When I do get a zit, I don't even care if it's covered up or not because this is what's realistic. We're in the apocalypse. There's
Yeah.
no facials or whatever that you can get done. It just is what it is, and you gotta hope for the best. So
Yeah, I do wonder sometimes, like in The Walking Dead, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who plays Negan, he'll just have like a freshly cut like haircut, and I'm like, who is cutting his hair? What is happening? Like, isn't shouldn't he look like ZZ Top or something? I don't know,
he still looks
but
good. I think he still looks great, right? Unless they
yeah,
have
no.
like Salazar who cuts and quaffs
Oh
all
my
on.
gosh, I know. Yeah, that's a good way to be. I was like, why does Morgan's hair look? Oh, probably Daniel. Okay,
That's what we've said. Daniel cuts all of our hair.
yeah. Do you ever think about the boys when, you've had so much success? Do you ever think about them? I know you have a sort of a sympathetic look like, oh, we don't know what was going through their head, but do you ever think like, I wonder what they think about me now? Like,
Oh, of course, there's like sometimes that's run across my mind, and I think it does. It's like,
I
oh,
bet.
my friends are more vocal about that actually, which is
Oh,
quite,
really?
yeah, they're
Shout
like,
out to my haters.
yeah, yeah. But I actually during I think when I booked Gallivant, that was a big role for me here in
Sure.
American territory.
That was so
Um,
fun.
oh, thank you. And a dream role. Um, I had a few of them from school reach out to me, and on my
The
social,
boys?
yeah, yeah, they sent me
Wow.
messages. There were a couple of them that sent me some messages on my social media pages, and I saw them, and I was so surprised to hear from them. But it was a really lovely, lovely letter, just apologizing for everything
Oh
they
my God.
they said, and that they were really sorry about that, and they were telling me what their childhoods were like, and they said that they're just so happy for my journey, and
Wow.
really beautiful. Now, it didn't come from all of them, but even to hear from, and not that I expect that at all, but just to hear from even a couple of them was really lovely, and
Wow.
it meant a lot. It meant a lot. So yeah, so there's sort of a silver lining in that.
Wow, that's fantastic. That rarely happens. That's like a movie. That's like the, end of a movie. Like you get some closure from like your, childhood.
I
That's
know
fantastic.
it is because I think it was all about trying to make peace with that and walk away from it, and not, because when we're kids we don't have that we don't have the development, the
Hmm.
maturity, to understand these situations really. It's only when we're older we look back that we can process and say, oh, well, that's what was happening, and da da da. But um yeah, that was a bonus that I wasn't expecting, and I can only imagine how difficult it was for them to even write that.
Yeah.
So I'm so appreciative.
Yeah, that's really sweet. So straight out of school, you're in Mamma Mia. You do, you work with A.R. Rahman. You do so many things. Was that kind of like a roller coaster time? Like seeing it all listed together, you're just like, wow, this seems like bing, bing, bing. But was it like that, or were you really anxious? I mean, this is like the beginning of your career. What was that like?
On paper, like you said, it looks like it's bada boom, bada bing. But I'll tell
Yeah.
you, it probably felt much worse, like when you're graduating out of drama college, your first thing is like, oh my God, I finished drama college. You feel very naked in the sense that you're like, wow, we're out in the real world. Now, you know, the work begins. And I my first job, my first thing to do was to get a paid job so I could pay the rent and all of that. So I took up, I was a waitress, and I was the worst waitress ever
No.
because my arms are only so long and I can only fit so many dishes and plates on my hands, and
It's hard.
so I tried. I was very fortunate that I had a job only for 3 weeks,
Mm.
as a waitress, and in between that time, I was auditioning, and I'd never done musical theater before, and obviously I love singing, and my music endeavors. It was more for like being a recording artist and getting a record deal, and so I never thought about musical theater. But when my agent said, "Listen, there's this audition for this new show called Mamma Mia. It's based on ABBA songs, and they're going to write a whole story around it. So I was like, oh my gosh, ABBA. I was like, well, how much fun would that be? And of course, my actor thespian friends, who I love and adore, said, are you nuts? You've just been studying Shakespeare, Ibsen, Chekhov, and now you're going to go and do a musical or go and audition for a musical based around ABBA songs. They said, well, that's going to be the biggest flop ever. And we laugh about it to this day because it could not be further from the truth. Any of us knew um, what a supernova of a show it became. And I'll never forget on my last audition, my agent said, if you see Benny and Bjorn, you know that you've made it to the final. And so I'll never forget, I was the first one in. It was early morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was sitting outside in the waiting room. And in walks this gentleman with his, fisherman's cap, his water rain jacket on. And he saw me and I was alone. And he just tipped his head off like that. And he walked in. I said, oh, hi. That was Bjorn. That was Bjorn. I was like, oh, I was so nervous. But talk about a surreal moment when you have Benny playing I Have a Dream and Dancing Queen on the piano, and there I am singing with Benny and Bjorn accompanying me singing their songs. What a trip. My parents were just crazy excited. And it was a moment in that moment I thought, whether I get this role or not, it doesn't matter. I got to sing with Benny and Bjorn, which was such a thrill. And then I got the job, which was so wonderful. And that was my first job out of drama college. I wasn't expecting to do a musical, and I'm so grateful because it really taught me the stamina needed to do theatre, doing 8 shows a week, making the 362nd show look like it's your first show. And just all the experiences we got to do because it was a new show. I got to meet the Queen. I got to perform in front of the Queen.
Oh my gosh. What's the Queen like?
Oh, she was so graceful and so
Hilarious, I'm sure.
and of course I was so nervous about curtsying. And I was like, how do you do the perfect curtsy? It's not easy when you're nervous. But she was so lovely, and to meet her and the princes at the time, it's so lovely. It was a moment that will stay with me in my heart forever, and we just
Oh,
had so many wonderful experiences. So for a first job out of drama college, I learned so much, and I was so grateful, and I love theatre so much. I went on to do a bit more theatre as well, and then I kind of naturally was lucky enough to segue into film and TV. So
right. Listen, I was researching you. I was going through your music this morning. I was listening to some Hypnotize remixes. So good.
ah!
So fun. I was like, I really miss going to a bar or a club. I was like, I need to bump these, adding them to my party playlist right now. So that must have been fun too. You were told kind of early on that kind of the key to success is sort of to be good at like two things at least, right?
So in drama college, they told us that if you can excel in more than one area of specialty, you're more likely to book work.
Mm,
Um, and have some kind of longevity with our careers. I mean, drama college in England, it's all about the craft. It's all about constantly wanting to improve on your craft and be the best actor that you can be, and hope and pray that you can be a working actor. It's not about all the other things and bells and whistles. It goes down to the nucleus of it all, which is your commitment, your passion to wanting to learn and improve and grow and thrive as an actor. So I love to sing. Dancing, I would never say that I was, an expert dancer with high kicks to my ears. No, those are my other friends that were amazing and continue to work on Broadway and West End and all of that. But I could move well. That's it. I could move well.
move
And
well. Yeah. Put that on
and
your resume. Move
yeah,
well.
that's right. Good mover. And I could sing and voiceovers. I love doing different accents and whatnot. So, it's just trying to create as much opportunity for yourself. But I had really great mentors too in my life. I'm so lucky. I have such, parents that have been like very normal parents, but at the same time, good life coaches in so many ways. And my husband, who is my rock, and my sister, like my family, and just good mentors and teachers in my life that have guided me well, and have given such good advice. And a lot of the time, it's about opportunity happens when the preparation meets good timing. And when preparation meets timing, that's when the opportunity happens and you're ready. I think, I often tell, when I'm asked, for advice, it's so important what we do in between the jobs. That's the most important. Um, because to book a job is one thing, but it's what you do in between to nurture, to keep yourself in a positive, you know, light, and to do things that, like I said, that help you to continue to grow. I feel like that nurtures naturally and fosters happiness, so that anything else that comes your way is a bonus. So
Yeah.
I think after going through gazillions of rejections, because that's all part of the journey, you begin to really have clarity about the things that bring you joy and the things that you want and don't want. And that's the only way I can kind of look at turning a year older each year, that I'm growing up a bit more, and that I'm learning more, and I'm realizing that everything my parents said was like, okay, fine. They were so right. Um, and it's you begin to let go a bit more, and you begin to feel more comfortable in your skin, and you're okay that you're not perfect in everything, and you kind of embrace all your imperfections, and you say, okay, fine, so what? And it's really liberating and a relief.
Yeah, but it's still not easy. I mean, I think you've even said like when you booked Once Upon a Time and you were Jasmine, like, a dream role, you were still kind of like, oh my God, like you were nervous, right? I mean, yeah,
So nervous because I mean this is a childhood icon for me, an iconic childhood character for so many people, and each and every one of us with our Disney characters who we love and adore and have grown up with, we have an idea of what they should and shouldn't be. So for me, I knew how important this role was to the fandom, to that universe, and I wanted to find, and when I was talking to Adam and Eddie, the showrunners and creators of Once Upon a Time, it was about finding uh, a modernized Jasmine that would fit into today's times. It was really important for me to find a Jasmine that was accessible, that was relatable, especially for young girls to look up to show an empowered young woman who had a voice, who had a big heart, who wasn't afraid to speak on matters that were important. Um, and this is what I love about Once Upon a Time, to take these iconic Disney characters and place them in everyday situations and watch and see how they navigate through the trials and tribulations of life, which we all go through. So it made it that much more accessible. I felt so connected to Jasmine even more, as opposed to putting her on this, this elevated plateau, like, oh, Princess Jasmine, oh, I felt, and it felt daunting, but at the same time, in this universe and this realm in Storybrooke, there was just something so relatable and accessible about her and all the other characters, which made it quite magical.
yeah, you do a lot of magical things. Let's get to Fear the Walking Dead. So you come on to the season, the show has changed. We've swapped showrunners, Morgan's come over. It feels like a different show. What was it like first getting that role? And first of all, how did you book it?
So, it came up so last minute, like
Yep.
literally dropped from the sky. As
Mm.
usually if you're lucky enough to book roles, it just happens like that. It's always the way. And I received a call from my agents and from all amazing casting directors, Sharon Bialy, Gohar, Sherry Thomas. They're just guardian angels of casting directors. And I remember meeting Sharon many moons ago, right from the start when I first started in LA. And she called me in for this role, and her and Gohan, they said, "You're perfect for this role, and we want you to get this role. So we're going to work at this, and we're going to do this." And just to have the bestest cheering squad ever, no matter what happened, I just appreciated so much that they believed in me. Um, and I was so excited about the show. This is a different universe for me, as many of my fans know. I think many people were very surprised that I joined the show or took on this role, but I did it because it was so far removed from anything that I've ever done. So very different from Jasmine, from
Oh yeah.
Isabel. Yeah, it just so incredibly different. And I thought, well, they've seen me dolled up and looking amazing because of amazing costumes, on the other shows and makeup and hair. Now they're going to see me looking pretty rough, and that excited me a lot. The first time they put mud and dirt on my face, when I first started on Fear, my makeup artist Cassie was laughing. She goes, "You're probably the only actress I know that's excited about dirt, grit, and blood on your face." I'm like, "Yeah, love it all." And to be in the makeup chair for only like 15 minutes, I was like, "This is amazing." Because on Gallivant and on Once Upon a Time, because of the intricate hair
Oh, your
pieces,
hair, yeah.
so beautiful, and the makeup and everything. I was in the chair for like 2 hours,
Oh
but
my
with Thea,
gosh.
it's like in and out. It's like 15 minutes and I'm done. So it's wonderful. It's always wonderful as an actor to you got to constantly stretch yourself and throw yourself in the deep end and hope for the best. And this was a role that I was really scared of in a great way, because Grace is so different from myself, from any other roles I've played. She's a scientist. She's guided by facts. She's very methodical and pragmatic. She's not guided by her emotions, which is why seeing Grace go through what she does in dreams in 612 is so different from what we know of Grace from before. But that's what drew me to the character, of wanting to play this wonderful role. And it was kind of serendipitous because Ian and Andrew, who are showrunners on Fear, were some of the head writers on Once Upon a Time.
Right.
So
I was going to mention that.
so when I first, when I joined Fear, they would tease me a lot in the first few days, saying, "Now there's no magic carpet here, all right? I'm really sorry. No shining crown, no palace or anything.
This is a whole new world.
It is literally a whole new world, and my palace is now a graveyard or, open fields with zombies." So I was like, okay, fine. And there would be moments where we'd be filming when our characters are in a real pickle. And I remember when, back in season 5, when we're boarding the helicopter, and I said, "Darn, it would be so much easier if we just had a magic carpet." And everyone started laughing. I'm
That's awesome.
really be good right about now. So,
Yeah. Even though you don't have, it's not as whimsical, at least you have Ruben Blades there, an icon, which a lot of people in America may not be aware of.
well, he's beloved and revered.
Everywhere. He's global.
Yeah. And to be able to, I have loved every minute on set with Ruben, especially back in season 5, when Grace and Salazar are singing together. And when they told me that I had to play guitar for Ruben, I said, "Are you Grammy legend?" And I'm going to play. And I did not know how to play. I had to learn. My husband is a guitar virtuoso. So thank goodness he was very patient enough to teach me for 3 weeks
Wow.
how to play End of the Line. And so I practiced so much because I said, I got to get this right for Ruben. I can't be bad for Ruben. I've got to be good for Ruben. And it was just one of the most magical moments, um, on set. I love those moments. I live for those moments as an actor, and he's just so wonderful to work with.
That was one of my favorite moments. And at the time, there was with you and Morgan, or you and Lenny, when you were on the carousel in season 5. I was like, this is fun. I was like, would people do this in an apocalypse? But then I was like, yeah, you would, because you would try to find like some kind of escapism. And then
Oh
seeing it flash back in this week's episode, you're like, oh, that's so lovely. It's full circle. It's so good.
I love the Easter eggs, that they put.
Yeah.
We see Roxy, my truck. I named her Roxy, and I was like, my truck's there. And then, obviously you see in the truck, a zombie version of Grace too, in hazmat
Right.
suit. But just those little Easter eggs, the bird walker, the bird poop walker, in the barn when you come in, just about Grace's journey of where she started, to give her that send off that we think she's having. Um, there's so many moments, the carousel moments. When you're in the apocalypse, it's you got to take those small wins. And that was a moment of relief, a moment of joy. It was such a magical moment for Morgan and for Grace. And I don't know what's obviously everything that's transpired and happened with Grace now. It is going to have a huge impact on her relationship with Morgan and with everyone else. Grace is now in a very dark hole. And it's the 7 stages of grief, and I can only hope that she'll make it to the end.
To
Um,
acceptance.
yeah, but I just don't know right now. And as an actor, it's a wonderful challenge to play through. I'm so, like I said, I'm so proud of this universe that they're dealing with these sensitive issues and very important topics of, between infancy loss and postnatal depression and
Sure.
everything that comes along with, navigating through each day after experiencing the loss of a child. So
Mhm.
um, let's see what happens to Grace.
Did they kind of give you any indication that you would be losing your baby, or no, there's nothing?
I knew about my storyline, especially for 612 pre-pandemic. So
Mhm.
I feel that I had this extra, well, I did. I had this extra amount of time to prepare. And in hindsight, I'm so grateful for that extra time because it allowed me to really, um, find the time to talk with my family members and my friends who have been through this, um, and then just go through different organizations, support groups, chat rooms to talk to different families. And I have to thank them so much for giving their time and talking about a very painful subject, a very painful experience. Scott Gimple shared with me a beautiful poem called Heartbeat, and I can send you the link if you want to share it.
Sure, yeah.
And he came across it and he said, I thought you might um, want to read this. And it was a sort of interactive poem where you click on this picture of this heart, a child's heart. And when you click on it, out comes in handwriting a line of the poem which these parents wrote about the loss of their child.
Mm.
And I cried and I loved the poem so much because I thought this is exactly what Grace needs as a reminder every day. So I printed it out, folded it up in a piece of paper, and tucked it in my bra. And I wear it every day on set.
Oh,
And I take it out first thing in the morning before I begin filming, and I read it. And it just kind of puts me in that mindset of where Grace is at and where she's going. So, I'm so grateful to Scott. We have such a wonderful TV family, and I'm so grateful to have gone through this experience together with such a supportive um, family and such a supportive crew, just cheering me on each and every way. I feel very blessed, and we came up with a very beautiful, poignant episode, and I'm just so grateful to all of the fans for all their glowing feedback. So thank you.
oh, well, Karen, you played it beautifully, and I'm glad. I thought we were going to lose you. I'm so glad you made it, at least, and your character's still here, and you're still here. You make Fear the Walking Dead better. And so, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it. Hope we can talk in the future.
Please, I'd love to. Thank you
Okay,
to
sounds good. Of course. All right. Thank you, Karen.
everyone. Bye.
All right, and that was my interview with Karen David. Thank you guys so much for listening. I told you she was a lovely person. I am so glad her character did not get killed off. She is very much needed in the show. Next week, we have a very special guest who I will reveal on Twitter. I promise we'll have an episode next week. It's going to be so good. We just have to finalize it, so I don't want to make any promises, but you guys are going to love it. All right, guys, you are amazing as always. Please stay safe, get vaccinated if you can, and as always, happy birthday to Nate.